Mr. President, honored delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control. We shall propose, finally, a global systems of communication satellites linking the whole world in telegraph and telephone and radio and television. The day need not be far away when such a system will televise the proceedings of this body to every corner of the world for the benefit of peace.
Kennedy was talking about weather control with confidence. In April of the previous year, the TIROS satellite had been launched from Cape Canaveral and equipped with solar power to send back images of cloud formations. The national press announced that TIROS, quote, opens up new vistas for weather forecasting and control, unquote. But developments in weather control had already been underway. In 1958, the military announced success with weather modification by sending powerful electromagnetic beams into the upper atmosphere using ionospheric heaters like the one at HAARP today. There's a longer article on the history of weather modification in the link below. I advise you to read it, look through it, see the people involved to get a better sense of where we stand on weather modification and even global warming. 1964 cartoon of the TIROS satellite. Little humor. When we predict snow, it snows.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world. That will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
The Senate committee will now hear from Jacob Lawson, Climate ISS Chief Coordinator. May the record reflect that he was nearly 1 hour late.
Yeah, sorry about that. I literally had to fly in from outer space.
Thanks to a system of satellites, natural disasters have become a thing of the past. We can control our weather.
Mr. President, one of our thermospheric satellites malfunctioned over Afghanistan.
So your proposal is what?
We shut down all satellites.
I don't need to remind all of you how many people died from catastrophic climate conditions.
Make sure there's no further incidents.
Are you going back up to space?
But I'm coming back. I promise.
Have a safe trip, sir.
Just don't touch anything.
Main engine start.
This is Mr. Jake Lawson.
The Jake Lawson?
You look much older than I would have thought. I mean, you look good. Am I getting fired? My access has been blocked.
So satellite has a bad comm, that happens.
Not a satellite, all of them.
This wasn't a malfunction. It was intentional.
There's potential for catastrophic weather events on a global scale.
A geostorm. We have to shut the system down.
The only one who has the kill codes is the president.
I need your help.
You're soliciting a Secret Service agent.
Seriously? We're kidnapping the president in a self-driving cab.
Jake, if you can't stop it, no one can. 3, 2, 1.
Come on, baby.
You realize realize you're committing treason.
Oh, yeah, I kidnapped the president. I've stolen state secrets. Yeah, anything I'm forgetting, honey?
Honey.
Hold on!
Marry her.
My message to the governors, anything they need, we will be there.
If presidents don't take action, then they get punished.
We've never seen anything like this.
Nope.
The waves are triple the size of a human being.
When the storm hit, President Obama got to look like a leader. He was being a leader. Meanwhile, Governor Romney had to go back to being a private citizen.
I don't agree with Obama on everything, but I respect him and I trust him.
Hemşerim aşağı kendini at ya. Anam sele bak sele.
Abi! Abi!
Adam izleyecek.
Baba!
Ha çekil şuradan.
Baba!
Gir içeriye. İçeriye gir.
Baba!
Buraya gel. Aşkım bir şey uzat. Nasıl kaygan oldu yer? Ay! Of! Of!
Nereye alıp geliyorsun? Cenaze falan mı var? Cenaze öyle mi götürsün?
The other major story today was the flooding in parts of South Florida. Broward County sustained the brunt of the impact brought on by the heavy rain over the weekend. CBS 4's Hank Tester is live in Davie with more on the flooding there. Hank.
Well, Elliot, how about socked and soaked here in Broward County? Seem to get the brunt of it up here. Check out this lumber yard behind me, still flooded. Let's take a look. Streets flooded, lots of water. What happens when millions in South Florida live on top of basically a swamp? Water never far away, and when it rains, it is a battle. And that water has the South Florida Water Management District opening floodgates, running pumps, trying to move water as fast as they can through the canals and into the Atlantic.
We've been manning this pump station for 24 hours a day since the Sunday before last, so about the last 7 days or so.
And when the drainage system is clogged or overwhelmed, you get this. Trouble for this lumber yard.
All the rain that we've got, we're lower than the surrounding area, so the drains fill up and then the water just kind of sits on top. There's nowhere to go.
Heavy rain swept across much of South Florida Sunday. As much as 6 to 8 inches of rain fell in only 6 hours between 4 and 10 a.m. This over many parts of Broward County. Sunday shoppers at Sunrise West had to carefully pick their parking space in order to avoid high water.
This is the first time I've seen it flooded like this. Even during the hurricane, it wasn't like this.
Earlier in the day at Sawgrass Mills, security guards roped off parts of the parking lot. Stranded cars. And then there's the beach. Hardcore tourists not going to let a little rain or a lot of rain ruin their visit.
I am. It's a lot better than what we have in Alabama, which is hot and humid. So, yes, nice here.
Oh, what's not to like about the beach in South Florida, no matter what? Now, public officials are certainly keeping an eye on the weather upcoming and trying to unclog a lot of storm drains. That's the very latest. I'm Hank Tester, CBS 4 News. Back to you.
There is no fancy cable news name for the disaster in Louisiana, not a superstorm or some play on the word Armageddon. But while much of the country was caught up in Olympics and politics, the state was suffering on a scale rarely experienced.
It's heartbreaking. It really is.
13 people have died. 40,000 homes have been flooded. The need for shelter so dire, people are sleeping in this film studio. This sugarcane farmer spent days sandbagging. It didn't work.
You're trying, and it just looks like nothing's gonna save it.
Geography complicates things. The state is flat, so all this water has nowhere to go.
We've washed the floors and bleached the house.
Those that can get back have big worries, cleanup and cost. It's estimated just 20% of people who lost their homes have flood insurance.
This is going to be a long-term recovery, nothing that's going to get fixed overnight.
U.S. President Barack Obama will tour the area next week, but some said he should have cut his vacation short and come earlier.
This is a poor state, and a lot of people have lost everything they own, and, we're going to need help just as we did in Katrina.
The Katrina reference is politically loaded. Many consider President George W. Bush's slow response to the hurricane and flooding in New Orleans to be a low point of his presidency. The Republican nominee beat the president to the state, touring/campaigning with his running mate.
What's happened here is incredible. Nobody understands how bad it is. It's really incredible. So I'm just here to help. Thank you.
Emergency officials say political or presidential trips can get in the way of relief efforts. When politicians start arriving, it's usually a sign the crisis is over and the recovery underway. That might not be the case for Louisiana, though. The forecast is ominous. More rain could be coming. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
More than 50,000 rescue personnel from the military, the police and the fire service are now spread out across the west and southwest. Torrential rains pounded some parts of Japan with 3 times the amount normally seen in July. The government has set up an emergency management centre at the Prime Minister's office. Even now, we've not been able to confirm the safety of quite a lot of people, and there are many who are stranded, facing the terror of impending inundation and waiting for rescue. The rescue and life-saving operation is now a race against the clock. Much of the country outside major cities is mountainous, and building takes place on virtually every bit of usable land, and that has left Japan vulnerable to disasters. Emergency warnings remain in 3 prefectures, with 300 millimetres predicted to fall by Monday morning.
In southern Thailand, entire communities are partially submerged by floodwater. In recent weeks, heavier than usual monsoon rain swept across this narrow stretch of land, separating the Gulf of Thailand from the Andaman Sea. Some people have left for evacuation centres, but most prefer to stay and cope as best they can with the difficult conditions.
I'm so unhappy about this situation. I'm very stressed. The water is high and I'm afraid that if there's another storm, my house will collapse.
People come together on the nearest dry land to receive aid handed out by the government or local groups, but they say they need more.
The flood this year is worse than last year and it's very difficult. We need assistance from the government because our livestock is stranded and needs food, and the whole village is underwater.
In the province of Songkhla, all 16 districts have been declared disaster zones. To a large extent, the people of southern Thailand have become accustomed to flooding because it happens so often. The last time this area was underwater was in January. But there's also a sense of frustration that governments in Thailand come and go with little or no focus on long-term solutions. Because of Thailand's volatile political scene, governments change regularly. Politicians are rarely around long enough to work on sustainable projects that may help those who live in flood-prone areas, like proper drainage and water management.
Governments only think about short-term solutions because they only stay for 2 to 4 years. So they only think about projects that can be completed within that time frame.
In the meantime, it's mainly rural communities that suffer year after year. The people say they've lived here for generations and moving isn't an option. So they stay and put up with a watery existence, which is becoming increasingly common. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Songkhla, Thailand.
Fox News senior meteorologist Janice Dean in the Extreme Weather Center. JD, one of the things about this storm, we haven't seen one like this strong in a long time.
We haven't seen a storm like this ever when it comes to all of the threats that we're going to be dealing with. Not only the storm surge of upwards 9 to 12 feet on top of dry land, the fact that we're going to see hurricane force winds, major hurricane force winds when it makes landfall overnight tonight. The flooding is going to be the unprecedented side of this storm system. Category 2 right now, it's on the high end of a Cat 2, 1 mile per hour shy of a Cat 3, and we think we're going to get there in the next couple of hours. Regardless, we're going to be dealing with a very strong winds, a tornado threat certainly through the evening and the overnight hours, and the fact that this storm is going to stall is going to make the impacts even more dire, life-threatening, catastrophic, disaster. Those are the types of terms that the National Hurricane Center is using, because when we're talking about flood totals of 35 to 40 inches in the next several days, that is going to be devastating for these areas. So watching the impact overnight tonight as a hurricane, Category 3 major hurricane. We haven't had one of those in 12 years hit mainland USA. And then watch this model. This is the European model as it moves offshore again, feeding onto the Gulf of Mexico moisture and perhaps strengthening as it goes back into the Gulf of Mexico, lingers for several days, and then perhaps making a second landfall. So Louisiana, we're going to be watching you as well. But right now, Texas, Southeast Texas, you are taking the bullseye for the epic amounts of rainfall we're about to receive. And that's why you're seeing those messages of get out while you can. If you've been told to evacuate, do so. And this is the steering that we've got. We've got high pressure across Florida, high pressure across the southwest. 2 of these are battling it out. This one coming on top of the storm Harvey, and that's why it's not going to budge for days. And that's why we are dealing with this historic storm, Leland and Shannon. We get a new advisory out at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and that'll give us the positioning of the storm, the strength of it, the exact location, the exact area where it's going to stall out is still yet to be determined. But what we can tell you is if we have a storm that's center is off the Gulf of Mexico, it still has the potential to bring hurricane force effects for days along this area. So something we have never seen in meteorological history.
Yeah, it's something for a storm to sit there like that for so long, and as so many people are talking about the rain, for anyone, 3 feet of rain sounds like a lot, but that's not just 3 feet on the ground. What does 3 feet mean in terms of flash flooding? How quickly can things go from relatively okay to extraordinarily dangerous?
I mean, this is going to be a days-long event, and we're also talking about potentially life-threatening storm surge. That is the wall of water that the counterclockwise winds, that mound of water that will be pushed inland, and in some cases we're dealing with 6 to 12-foot storm surge on top of dry land, and some of these areas are below sea level. So if you think of 12 feet, I mean, that's above some buildings. That is going to completely inundate an area. That's the storm surge part of it, and that's the threat from the hurricane. Once the hurricane weakens a little bit, we're still going to be dealing with this storm system off the shore. You can see these are the computer models, so we're all in good agreement that it's going to make landfall or come close to making landfall in the next 12 to 24 hours. After that, though, it's going to linger because we have these very weak steering currents in the upper levels of the atmosphere. You know, typically a lot of these storms, you'll see a cold front or a trough that will come down. The jet stream is up here, so it's got nothing to pick it up and move it northeastward, and that's why we've got this, you know, unprecedented scenario of a storm off the coast, going onshore, going offshore with these warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. You need that fuel for a hurricane to stay intact. And that's why we're nervous that if the center stays offshore, this is going to be a prolonged event of battering waves, battering winds, storm surge, and feet of rainfall.
Wow. Plus tornadoes we always worry about as well. Janice Dean in the Extreme Weather Center. New advisory 55 minutes from now. We'll wait for that. Thanks, JD.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Let's get straight to the breaking news. Harvey provoking an unfolding flooding disaster in America's 4th largest city, Houston, Texas.
This is all happening right now as we come on the air, and the situation is unfortunately dire. People trapped in their flooded out homes. They are fleeing to their attics, taking to social media, begging for a rescue.
And there's a diabolical complication here. While these folks have no choice but to hit the attic, there are reports of tornadoes touching down all over the Houston area, which could make the attic a dangerous place to be.
And making matters even worse, this storm Harvey likely to stick around for days upon days, dumping more and more rain, exacerbating the flooding that's already happening and hampering officials from getting out to make those rescues. Take a look at the images just coming in. This is an entire highway that is underwater.
Meanwhile, this morning, we're getting a clearer sense of the catastrophic damage inflicted by Harvey when it came ashore as a ferocious Category 4 hurricane. We have team coverage this morning, and we're going to start here with ABC News senior meteorologist Rob Marciano, who's on the ground in Port Lavaca, Texas. Rob, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dan, Amy. Our worst fears, unfortunately, unfolding in the Houston area of the second punch of our 1-2 punch with Hurricane Harvey, now slamming southeast Texas with heavy rain and emergencies happening overnight with now over 1,000 rescues, as you mentioned, in and around the Houston area. Nearly 2 feet of rain already falling in just about 12 hours, 6-7 inch rainfall rates, and that city cannot handle that sort of deluge. The flood warnings are lining up across southeast Texas, and the rainfall is lining up as well. So we're not done with this by any stretch of the imagination. The next 12 hours, we'll probably see another 12 inches of rain, round after round after round of rain spiraling in off the Gulf of Mexico, the center of Harvey, just to the east of San Antonio this morning. But all that moisture rolling in from the Gulf is going to create the rainfall over the next 12 hours. And really, over the next 36 to 48 hours, we could see another 2 feet on top of the 2 feet that we saw today. Those rescues are unfolding. It is a frightening situation happening in Houston, and that's where we find our Victor Arquindo, who's live there this morning. Good morning, Victor.
Rob, the flooding is widespread across Houston. Just take a look at this parking lot that we're in. The latest numbers, more than 24 inches of rain have fallen. More than 1,000 rescues have taken place. The officers that we've spoken with say they've never seen anything quite like this. Overnight, the situation in Houston getting dire. Some of the youngest victims of the floodwaters rescued by boat. Torrential rains battering America's 4th largest city. Reports of people trapped inside their homes. a local police chief live streaming throughout the night.
Hey, is anybody up there that wants to go? You guys okay?
Officials rescuing more than 1,000 residents.
Any kids? 2 kids, all right. You got the baby?
But unable to get to everyone.
Breaks your heart for our city, for our state.
Some residents wading through waist-high waters, doing everything they can to get to safety. More than 20 inches of rainfall already in some areas.
Let me tell you, it is dropping a lot of water, and the streets are treacherous.
Cars submerged. Officials telling people to stay inside and off the roads.
It makes absolutely no sense for anyone to be out on the road unless it's an emergency.
More than 7 inches of rain falling per hour. Houston, home to more than 2 million people, now facing historic flooding.
Just all of a sudden, streets are flooded. It was too late to leave. I just happened to wave down a rescue boat. I'm not sure if they were there for us, but they picked us up. There's about 3 feet of water inside my house. Floors are gone, sheetrock is gone, and cars are gone. So
even our own ABC News crew was forced to higher ground. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna have to abandon these cars. We put them up here on the sidewalk. They moved us over to a parking lot that was on higher ground. The situation here went from bad to worse. The area could get another foot of rain by the end of the day. This is an area that normally doesn't flood, but just take a look at the car that's right there behind me. It is submerged and the water is much deeper beyond that. We're getting a break from one of those outer bands right now, but another one is coming this way soon. And unfortunately for Houston, it will be like this for the coming days. Dan?
Victor, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
You know, they were talking about climate change yesterday, and now we're learning that scientists and researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion,
no.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops, and if they don't have them, there's the consequences of famine?
Well, the bad news is if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all, because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods, for agriculture, farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes, all of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly interesting, Professor Michio Kaku. Thank you so much.
Scientists accidentally
Dutch here, 2:43 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2014. And I've got you over here on my webpage. I'm going to put a link down below to this so you guys can read up on this and investigate yourself on this new discovery that was just announced on CBS News of all places on the 21st, yesterday or a day and a half ago, announcing that the use of dual beams, in this case lasers, also frequency, can be used to have an interacting effect with each other. One beam used to strip electrons from the atmosphere, the other beam used to pump up that area of plasma that's created that then forms CCN, cloud condensation nuclei particles, which form into raindrops. And they can target the beams, cross them, use one beam to pump the other one, and produce weather. And this is confirmed. Here's the article down below. The graduate students have done the experiments in the laboratory and also can control lightning. So we're not just talking about making a plasma area, making lightning and controlling where it goes using two transmitters. Now, scalar interferometry, that is something that was a term that was coined by Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden in the 1980s, where he talked about two transmitters crossing their beams, having a heating effect, a plasma effect, at a distance, which then can be used for anything from missile defense to causing weather, causing earthquakes, and he explains it all. In the 1980s, he does a full conference. This is just a small part of that. I think it's like 2 hours long. Anyways, you can watch Thomas Bearden explain scalar radar in the 1980s, or you can read the article confirming one beam over the other, one pulses, their word, not mine, into the other, creating the plasma bubble and controlling it. And they call it a filament. Now, here's a diagram showing real-life examples of scalar interferometry happening. We're talking about two beams crossing, having an effect or an excitement where the beams cross. Here's another one, where the beam crosses, the other beam is excited. And here's an example, real life, again, in a storm where we have two intersecting radar stations, one right in the middle, and we've got a interferometry happening in between the three. This is during the time of the Joplin tornado. We've had some very severe weather events caused by frequency. The United States Navy used frequency only, not lasers, frequency, HARP, and a radar to generate a plasma bubble in the atmosphere and then control it, pump it up, and move it for over an hour. That was at the start of 2013, U.S. Navy using HARP up in Alaska. Now, if you guys are curious how this works, the process behind it, it takes way longer than this kind of video to explain it. We're talking multiple hours I've spent explaining these things. Also, we have 3 pages, each page almost a month worth of reading in itself. So you can go read those. That's all here. Just wanted to bring you up to date.
Lasers sound like the stuff of science fiction, right? Sound completely unbelievable. How could our military possibly be using those in future warfare? Guess what? We've just had a recent breakthrough, more great test results that are making lasers a reality. So it's called Athena. Lockheed Martin makes it, and they've been doing a lot of the pioneering in this laser field. Now, what's really exciting about it is that it's so hard to harness that much power and make it compact enough that it's actually going to make practical sense downrange. And they've proven that they can do that. Recently, they tested it against 5 moving drones, so realistic drones that they might go up against with, enemy forces might send against us, for example, or terrorists might send against us. And it successfully shot down all 5 of the drones. This is huge news because it means that in a realistic, practical setting, it's looking very promising. So it could be ready to field quite soon. So when you see the movies or you look at comic books or television shows, when you see the laser weapons, they tend to be a color, right? Red or green or something like that. Real lasers, one of the key advantages that they provide is that they are invisible. You actually can't see them. You just see this damage suddenly starting to blow something up. So if we take a look now at what the Athena did to a truck. So we're looking at a truck engine, and the Athena within seconds was able to beam right in there, heat the whole thing up, and burn through the engine of this vehicle. So if you can imagine if you were in that vehicle, all of a sudden this hole would start appearing in your engine and the whole thing would just disappear. That's what these lasers do. Now there's some other key advantages that we should mention. Let me give you 3 of them. 1, unlimited ammo. As long as we have power, we have an unlimited magazine. And downrange, of course, having unlimited ammo can be a huge advantage. Second, it's silent. We don't give the enemy any advance warning that it's coming. And then the third one I wanted to touch on is that it travels at the speed of light. So not only are we delivering powerful, decisive effects, lethality, we're also doing it so rapidly they don't know what hit them. So if you could circle back to that example of being in the car again, that would happen so instantaneously, within seconds, you truly would have no idea what was happening. It would just suddenly start disintegrating, right? So what can we use these against? So we talked about the vehicle a bit. We talked about how Athena has just proven itself against drones. But in the real world application, our forces could use it against the drones. We could use it against aircraft. We could use it against vehicles on the ground, like we mentioned. We could also use it against fast attack boats. And in fact, Athena's sibling, Adam, a couple years ago proved that it could eliminate these fast attack boats. So if you imagine boats start trying to swarm one of our ships, not a problem for this laser. Burns right through the hull. As you can see right there, it's burning right through the hull. I'm incredibly excited about this news, this great news about the successful testing of Athena, because it means that we'll be putting these powerful weapons soon. We could put them in the hands of our warfighters and give them even more powerful weaponry to keep themselves safe and also to deliver the effects that we need. They can be used, laser weapons can be used offensively and of course defensively too, to help protect our homeland. Think of our airports that might be under threat from enemy drones. They could be used to protect we could use them statically and used to protect our airports. They could be used to protect our power grid, our nuclear plants. So there's lots of different exciting applications for this technology. It is no longer science fiction, but science fact.
Hey, it's Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. I'm John Knox in Los Angeles. Now, this picture has been taken off the internet. It's a suburban neighborhood believed to be near the Carr Fire, that's C-A-R-R, which is near Redding, California. Now, we're talking about fires, irregular, unpredictable, raging forces of nature, okay? Now, when the forest fire comes to a suburban development, we're going to take a look at how this particular forest fire, this force of nature, decided to burn when it got to the suburban development. Now, let's drift the camera a little bit to the left. Now, this forest fire, when it got to this suburban tract, decided that the houses were more important to burn than the trees. And we're going to drift down a little bit here, speaking of trees. Now, to the left of this group of trees or bushes, you see the shell of a burned out car. Now, the energy that it takes to blast all of the glass out of the car, to burn all the rubber tires off the car, that's pretty intense energy. So in that spot, there was an amazing amount of energy and heat being expended. And yet, the trees and the bushes off to the right of this particular car did not burn. Okay. That's strange. That's an anomaly, and that's been repeated over and over again in many of the fires. However, if we drift the camera up and to the right, we're going to find something that this irregular, unpredictable, raging force of nature decided to do. The left of this property is decimated. The right of the property, probably about a third of the house, looks like what happens to a decoration on the top of a wedding cake when it's cut. So this irregular, unpredictable, raging force of nature decided to do this to this house. Pretty amazing fires. Okay, so let's pull out a little bit and take a look at all of the lots that are in this picture. The thing that you're going to notice is the decimation, the obliteration is consistent. Every house is built differently. It has different pieces of furniture and has different things inside it. They all should burn very differently, but what you see here is a replicated pattern of absolute decimation. So to me, this says something that's repeatable and it's accurate and persistent. That's a system. This is not the mark of a force of nature, okay? So on Tuesday, July 31st, 2018, the common sense of what I'm showing you just in this one picture basically says whatever the explanation that we've had so far from the officials about what causes these fires is basically a lie. So, when I cultivate my common sense, and I know I'm being lied to, I find out that there's more and more and more reasons as we go along to stay curious.
Stunning new images from the west coast of the devastation in our Earth Matters series today. As more than 44,000 acres in Northern California have been engulfed in flames, the rapidly expanding wildfire has claimed 2 lives so far. One, a Redding city fireman, the other a bulldozer operator trying to contain the flames. This is now threatening close to 5,000 homes and businesses, and it's just one of 88 large fires scorching the nation right now. CNN's Dan Simon is on the scene for us in Redding, California. Dan, any word how long it's anticipated it will take to contain this fire?
Well, Jake, unfortunately, no. This fire just at 3% containment, and the temperatures today expected to hit triple digits. In the meantime, you can see what the fire did to this subdivision behind me, completely flattened it. And Jake, no one really expects police to come banging on your door telling you only have minutes to leave. But in this case, people really were caught off guard. This started as a small brush fire on Monday. It stayed that way until the winds kicked up last night. The devastation is beginning to set in for people in Redding, California. The aptly named Car Fire, which officials say was first sparked by a vehicle, has ravaged the region since Monday and doubled in size in just the last 12 hours.
It's taken out a lot.
Deadly and out of control, it has charged some 45,000 acres as firefighters try to contain it.
Wow.
In some neighborhoods, the difference between a home spared and a home scorched is just a few feet.
I have no idea what we're going to do tomorrow. Hell, we don't know what we're going to do tonight.
Dominic Galvin and his wife Sylvia never imagined they'd see their house like this.
We didn't think the fire was going to come here, so we didn't really take things out. Like everybody else that was scrambling at the last minute to get out when we saw the fire on the ridge.
Officials say extreme temperatures and strong winds make this fire all the more fierce. It is one of 3 major blazes burning across the state and one of 88 across the country.
This is that new normal, that unpredictability, the large explosive growth fires.
Sadly, scenes like this are becoming the new normal worldwide as temperatures rise due to climate change. In Greece, experts say extreme summer heat accelerated the suspected arson fire that turned these iconic whitewashed hillsides black with ash. The flames rose so quickly, some families ran into the sea for relief.
The temperature was so high, so nobody could do anything. As you can see, houses, cars, everything destroyed.
The Greek fires have claimed more than 80 lives so far. In just the last few weeks, more than 3,400 daily high temperature records have been broken or tied, including unprecedented numbers in the north. Montreal, Canada at 92, and in the Sahara Desert, thermometers peaked at a deadly 124 degrees this month. So are we ready for triple-digit temperatures and their consequences to go from extreme to expected? Here in Redding, the answer is no.
It seems like part of my life is gone. There's nothing.
And you can see that the fire continues to smolder in places. And Jake, folks, continuing to brace for more problems tonight as this area remains under a red flag warning. Jake.
To me, it kind of looked like an apocalyptic horror film. It was crazy.
Large trees unearthed and toppled, rooftops stripped of their shingles.
It was a big swirl. It was just like in Oklahoma, you see like on Wizard of Oz, you know.
Kenny Cassidy has lived in the neighborhood for 29 years and says he's never seen anything like it.
Then all of a sudden you just seen flames. It's like a wall of flames. and then there are sheets of metal flying around like 200 feet in the air. It was a firestorm.
One firefighter, he's been with CAL FIRE for 16 years now, tells me he has never seen an incident like they saw last night. Radar, according to the National Weather Service, was picking up a large amount of rotation as heat was rising up from this intense inferno here last night.
These more intense, larger fires are starting to become the new normal here in California. These more intense, larger fires are starting to become the new normal here in California. More intense, larger fires are more intense, larger fires are starting to become the new normal here in California.
And Keswick Road brings us to a pretty incredible point in this story. This is Keswick Dam on the Sacramento River. How close did the fire come to this structure? Well, it burned right up to the parking lot that sits right beside it. And just over here on the north side of the bridge, you can see where the fire crept up to the river, jumped across, and kept burning east.
Yeah, never in my wildest, I mean, I knew wildfires are a major danger here, but as far as this goes, I've never thought in a million years this would happen.
We're seeing these fires grow bigger, they're more severe, and they're impacting more communities throughout the state.
When the fire blew through here, witnesses say it was ferocious. It wiped out just about everything. You could see home after home after home just burned to the ground.
It's like a war zone. It's just like a bomb just hit each house and just exploded. It's like a war zone. It's just like a bomb just hit each house and just exploded.
This fire is unpredictable. It's going in many, many different directions, and it's very hard to predict.
And thank goodness that your family members, and you are okay. But talk to me about what this is like now. You usually respond, and you're continuing to responding to emergencies, but now you are, straddling both those worlds. Now that you all have been victimized like this, describe for me, if you can, what this feels like for you.
Well, of course, we signed up to continue working through disasters, so my family has good support here.
I don't know about you. That sounds like a volcanic.
If this is the new normal, then we got some problems. That's all I got to say.
It's not like this in the holiday guides. New York's iconic Times Square has been hit by the winter storm that's brought death and destruction to the northeastern United States. Mayor Bill de Blasio's declared a weather emergency for the city, where locals and tourists alike are making the best of the big freeze.
This is heavy. It's heavy snow. And when it's wet, it's like you can't hardly move it.
I think it's a great novelty. I don't know if I'd like it seasonally. I'm pretty comfortable with the warmth in Australia.
Thousands of flights have been cancelled and delayed. The whiteout conditions saw planes grounded temporarily at New York City's two main airports, and many hoping to fly from here at Newark Airport in New Jersey were disappointed.
Our flight was cancelled, and we never got any information that was being cancelled. And now we're delayed, and we're not sure if we're going to be flying out of here anytime soon.
The blizzards blasted Boston, where schools will remain closed today. And flooding in the cities tied a 40-year record, the National Weather Service said. The snowfalls come amid a cold snap that's gripped much of the United States for over a week now and left more than a dozen people dead.
How deep was that? Too deep. Yeah, it's really moving in. It's continuing to move in. Not good.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Go.
Snowing in Florida.
I never thought I'd see the day that there would be snow in Florida.
The last time I saw snow was about a long time ago. Never seen snow. This is the first time. So big difference, super, super cold.
I never experienced anything like this. This is crazy.
As we promised earlier in the broadcast, you may have seen the majesty of Niagara Falls, but you've never seen it quite like this. Tonight, we've got a breathtaking look high above the frozen falls, a view you could only get by sending up a drone. Once again, here's Dylan Dreyer.
Soaring hundreds of feet over Niagara Falls, a spectacular sight. Frigid air brought in via the Siberian Express has encased the falls in ice, drawing a surge in visitors from all corners.
Just amazing. You know, it's winter wonderland.
Temperatures along the U.S.-Canadian border haven't gone above freezing this month, transforming what is actually a collection of 3 waterfalls from just about every angle.
To see it on this scale, it just seems like really alive.
Behind the falls, what should be a view of gushing water, now a wall of ice.
Everything around you is frozen here, and you can see the water rushing underneath snow and coming through little ports, which is really neat.
The falls partially freeze this time every year with frozen mist and water draping everything they touch. But they never completely freeze over. There's just too much rushing water, with 23 million gallons falling every minute during the winter. Last month, adventurer Will Gadd took advantage of all that ice, climbing 147 feet in about an hour. The only time Niagara Falls stopped flowing entirely was in March 1848, blocked by an ice jam that allowed people to walk on the riverbed. The landmark area is on track for one of the coldest Februaries on record, and the ice isn't expected to melt entirely until May.
It's gorgeous. I think they're even more beautiful frozen than in the summertime.
Dylan Dreyer, NBC News, Niagara Park, Ontario.
Downstairs, yes. I'm gonna go grab my wine.
The whole bottle.
We are definitely looking at a pretty good sized one here, folks. We are looking north in Marshalltown, Iowa. This is a pretty good sized one coming in from the, let's see, that would be west, northwest, coming southeast. Definitely need to take cover. We're probably going to head downstairs. We are on the 4th floor of the Holiday Inn in Marshalltown, Iowa. We are going downstairs.
We have a tornado touchdown, looks like north of Bondurant. And another one in Bondurant. It's north of 80. Look at the debris going up in the air.
Going down 7th Street! Charlie, there's one going on! A big one!
Game. Isn't like right in the courthouse. Bro. Dude, look at there. The building. Damn.
Now we're going to go to severe weather in the heartland. I wish this had never happened before. At least 18 reported tornadoes in 3 states overnight and more than 100 severe weather reports. ABC's Gio Benitez is in Walnut, Iowa, where they're seeing significant damage. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, Michael, good morning to you. Yeah, a powerful storm system clearly moved through here. Just take a look at this building. The walls ripped right off. You got the ceiling there just collapsing. Incredibly, nobody was injured here. That's the good news. But boy, this is causing quite a mess across the Midwest. Overnight, twister after twister taking aim at the heartland. You can see this massive funnel cloud making its way across that field. In Oklahoma, this reported tornado touching down. And check out the ominous Kansas sky overnight. Lightning revealing numerous funnel clouds. Lightning striking this home. Firefighters spending the night battling the blaze, but not able to save the house. As torrential blinding rains hammer parts of the Midwest. Drivers being pummeled by large hail, making for treacherous conditions. Some drivers pulling off the roads to wait it out. And in Nebraska, a dust storm leading to a multiple car pileup, more than 24 cars involved. And back here live in Walnut, Iowa, we should tell you it's important to know that the severe weather threat is not over just yet. We've been saying it, 30 million Americans could be affected today alone. That severe weather threat continues into tomorrow. Michael?
All right, thank you so much, Gio. And that weather is also on the move. At least 30 million from Texas to Wisconsin are in its path. Rob has been tracking the latest. Good morning, Rob.
Hey, good morning, Michael. This after a very quiet April. Kansas and Oklahoma seeing 0 tornadoes for that month, and now reported 18 just yesterday alone, most of which were in Kansas. There's one of them. Look at this one in Tescott, Kansas. A massive wedge tornado comes very close to a farmhouse. They're barely missing it. And just down the road, about 20 miles, likely the same tornado. Again, more multi-vorticity here, Bennington, Kansas. This would have done serious damage in a more urban area. Today, we're going to reset Kansas City. You're going to get into it again. That's going to be just damaging wind, and then more tornadoes around this dry land back to the west. And then again tomorrow. So 4 days of this, Michael, going forward.
All right, thank you, Rob. Got to keep an eye on that weather.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Huge tornado on the ground.
He sends a new text. He says, "This is a monster." So we have a very large tornado on the ground now near the Culver area. Obviously, it's looks like it's off to the east here of Tescott, but it's moving northeast at about 30 miles per hour. It looks like a new tornado warning is coming in. And yeah, this is going to be for folks in the Clay and Riley, Washington County area. So
I want to go to Jerry. Yeah, I want to go to Jerry Henriquez. Jerry, where are you at? What are you seeing right now?
Well, a little while ago, I passed the Brookville incident. Now I passed Hitville. I've been watching to the north. You can see this
Huge tornado on the ground right now.
I'm going to make it to I-135, head north, and we'll get the view of this. Probably, as unfortunately, it's going to go across into the Minneapolis area. I'll probably slow down a little bit. I'm not a hero anymore. It's better to watch.
If you're on Highway 18 somewhere, I would find a ditch at some point as fast as you possibly can, because that is again crossing. It's right over Highway 18, as Randy said, heading toward Minneapolis, and it's damaged as possible as soon as you possibly can.
And we see that bright rainbow that Tom Duhane was speaking about, but we also see
This footage shows a rare tornado that ripped through Northern California, damaging dozens of homes.
from above.
The storm sent roof tiles and solar panels flying from properties and left residents of the city of Roseville in shock over the unusual event.
It's gotten a lot bigger in just the past 30 seconds. It's certainly changing very quickly.
The video also shows a funnel forming and storm clouds gathering over Glenn County as the tornado touched down. The twister ripped through a distance of around 91 metres, damaging 10 to 12 houses, while debris smashed windows and ripped holes in walls. Small funnel clouds like this only occur around once a year in the area, and a National Weather Service forecaster said it was in the smallest measurement category for twisters.
Do you see the size of those?
I know, I see them.
You're not getting hit in the head. This is way too dangerous to walk out in.
Oh, he's gonna put a new roof on.
Hope it doesn't break somebody's windshield.
Back up, baby.
That would break your windshield.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Can you imagine if that hit you and you hear it hitting the water?
That's what hit
It's
Chris
moving
Mims
that,
in
it's
the head,
moving that
yeah.
way. It's moving that way. That has more than golf ball size tail.
That's huge. Oh, look at that one. I almost want to pick it up.
This poor fish.
Did you know knob is a slang term which means rich or wealthy? It's a shortened version of the word nobility because of the families that lived there. It is also derisively known as Snob Hill.
What is it?
Daniel built that building.
Come on, I want to go home now. Just hold on. It's gonna be okay, I promise.
You're gonna get killed out there. And get to the side of the stadium. I'll be right there. Be right there. It's not safe here. Get to the side of the stadium. To the side of the stadium right now. This building's gonna collapse. You need to move. Hurry! You gotta get off the street. Get to the side of the stadium right now. Side of the stadium. Get to the side. side of the stadium. Come on. Off the street. Get to the stadium. Side of the stadium. Come on. Get out of the street. All right. I got you. And up. Here. Take her out. Everybody okay? Anybody hurt? No. Emma, you okay?
How'd you know we'd be safe?
Just get up against something sturdy. Protect yourself. Triangle of life. Let's go. She's gonna be okay.
But how do we get through that?
We don't. We go around it.
In 1983, I did radiotomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate with just 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HAARP uses 1 billion watts beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiments. Picture these strings on the piano as layers of the earth. Each one has its own frequency. What we used to do is beam radio waves into the ground, and it would vibrate any strings that were present in the ground. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's natural gas. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's crude oil. We were able to identify each frequency. We accomplished this with just 30 watts of radio power. If you do this with 1 billion watts, the vibrations are so violent that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations could be so severe underground that could even cause an earthquake.
What's up, guys? It's August 18th. This is Marfugal News. Just wanted to let you know, while I was editing this, there was an alert for 3 more 5.9s in the Fiji region. Stick around. What's up, guys? It's Marf. It is August 18, 2018, and we have had some huge earthquakes around the world just in the last 2 hours. We had an 8.2 magnitude hit the Fiji Islands region. That's right here. It was a depth of 566 kilometers. Then we had a 5.7 and a 6.1, a 5.0 in New Zealand. Again, with Fiji Islands region just 2 hours ago, a 5.8 possible aftershock, 5.3. New Zealand just lit up like a Christmas tree. Then we have a 5.7 again in the Fiji Islands region, 5.6 right after that. We had a 5.4. Basically, New Zealand and Fiji are fighting for the biggest earthquake today. And then again, a 4.9 an hour ago, 52 minutes ago, we had another 5.0. And then it looks like it's going down from here. It looks like some have said, and then another 6.3 55 minutes ago, another 6.2 51 minutes ago. So this is definitely a concern. I do believe that there is a tsunami warning. That does not mean that there is a tsunami. So I hope everyone in that region is very, very safe. You guys have a great day. Again, be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.
Weather Center all of a sudden.
Very busy.
It's about 1 o'clock in the morning in Anchorage, Alaska right now, and I bet you sirens are going off and people are rushing away from the coast.
It's got to be so scary.
So scary. Huge earthquake off the Alaskan coast. 12:30 a.m. local time, Alaska Standard Time. Let me show you the maps. Here's what we're looking at. It's now an 8.2 magnitude quake. It happened about 150 miles to the southeast of Kodiak, Alaska. That's the island there off of the Alaskan coast. There is Anchorage, Juneau, of course. All these places are going to be looking at possible evacuations, folks along the Alaskan coast. Anyone near water, as we have tsunami warnings now for the entire coast of British Columbia and all of Alaska. So all of the Aleutian Islands, all of the Alaskan coast, all the way down to Vancouver. For the west coast of the United States, including Hawaii, that is now a tsunami watch, meaning that a tsunami is possible. So there are local communities here that are now also going to be watching the water levels very carefully along the Pacific to see exactly what happened with this earthquake. It's a relatively shallow earthquake at just 6 miles there on the northern Pacific Rim. A lot going on now along the west coast. If I get any reports of an actual tsunami going on or any reports of damage out of Alaska, of course, I'm going to be tweeting that throughout the morning at Greg D. Weather. Look for the information there.
It's heaven on earth for some, but residents are going through hell. 2 powerful earthquakes have left nearly 450 dead and devastated Lombok, an Indonesian island popular for its beaches. Hundreds of aftershocks have hit the island, destroying or damaging tens of thousands of buildings during the busy tourist season, causing thousands to flee.
The Three Island is the best place, good for everything, very safe and good for snorkeling, good for everything, yeah? So that's why tourists come here and then go to Lombok. If this island is not open, tourists cannot come to Lombok.
Indonesia is accustomed to natural disasters often hit by volcanic eruptions and earthquakes.
In December we had a volcano. Then just before the earthquakes we had big waves. So there were also 2 weeks almost no tourists here on the island. And then we have the earthquakes now for more than a week. Yes, so for us it's a nightmare. But we will survive. Everyone hopefully will survive.
The tourism sector in Indonesia has been resilient in the past when it faced major crises such as the 2004 tsunami in Aceh. Experts say the tourists have been spooked, but they'll be back.
It began with a tremble and then it hit. You're watching a bald eagle nest at the Channel Islands National Park experience Thursday's magnitude 5.3 earthquake, leaving these chicks a little shaken up. On the ground in the city of Ventura, the shaking sent people at a liquor store running out the door looking for cover. While off the coast, dust rolled off the cliffs of Santa Cruz Island due to small landslides just miles away from the epicenter of the quake, the area's strongest since 2014. Hassan Hawara came to the U.S. from Syria when he was 14. He now works here at Surf Liquor in Ventura, and this was his second earthquake to experience.
I was just chilling at home, and I just felt at first the couch under me started moving, and I just looked around and saw the TV moving, the glass, I could hear it just smashing together.
He says he got a chuckle when he pulled up the store surveillance video from the moment that earthquake hit. It shows a customer and a coworker fleeing out the door.
He freaked out at first. He just heard like legit all the bottles just smashing, making noises. It's about like to fall to the ground.
By the way, that customer did come back just moments later to make sure he grabbed his beer.
California, you know, it's good. It's fun over here.
Randy Leonard says he was at work when the earth started moving.
Like my car was shaking, you know, and then I was wondering like, what, is somebody pushing my car?
And Chad Roulette tells me he didn't even know there was an earthquake.
No, I didn't feel one thing. I was at work all day and didn't feel nothing. I just learned about it today when I got home.
It was just another day in California, and while it wasn't the biggest quake, take it from the birds or the beer buyer, the shaking was no joke.
I knew the minute it happened, if I go on social media, all the friends and people are talking about it. So I figured it actually happened. I wasn't just tripping out.
And thankfully, no damage and no injuries to report as a result of this earthquake, which Caltech says was SoCal's strongest in about the last 4 years or so. Experts say this 5.3 could have been dangerous for us had it been right underneath our feet, but we were lucky because it was centered just offshore. Reporting in Ventura, Bill Malugin, Fox 11 News.
From UFOs to ghost and psychic powers, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. Look at the sky over any modern city. Chances are you'll see line-shaped clouds mixed with the normal cloud cover. These are called contrails. When jets fly through the air, they leave trails of water vapor in their wake. This vapor dissipates a few minutes after the jet passes. The government claims these clouds are a harmless result of engine exhaust. I'm no meteorologist. When I hear about the weather, I take the experts at their word. However, some sources reject this explanation. These researchers believe there's another type of man-made cloud, a chemtrail. While contrails are an effect of water and air temperature, chemtrails are allegedly different. What if those lines aren't just water? What could they be? Why are they here? Many chemtrail theorists, or chemies, think the trails are a type of weather manipulation. We know weather-changing technology exists. By using dry ice or silver iodide, scientists can increase rainfall. It's imperfect, but it's real. Chemtrails could be another, more precise technique. This could explain why chemtrails don't dissipate. They could be made to attract moisture. But not all chemtrails attract cloud cover. Some just linger like strokes of paint across the sky. Because not all chemtrails attract moisture, many chemies think those strange striped-shaped clouds have a different purpose. Why control the weather if you can control the people? Here's where it gets crazy. Some researchers believe chemtrails are a kind of mind control. According to this theory, the chemicals spread through chemtrails wear down the immune system and force the victim's mind to function at a lower level. With a less alert population, no one will notice the changes in local, national, and global governments. They allege that higher amounts of bacteria, barium, and aluminum are found near chemtrails. But this theory has obstacles. It's tough to control the dosage. Spraying chemicals only affects people who happen to be outdoors. What happens to the rest? There's also no way to aim. It doesn't sound effective. But some believe chemtrails aren't made for mind control or weather manipulation. Instead, they're weapons. Sure, this sounds ridiculous. We're comparing clouds to tanks and missiles. But the US does conduct atmospheric research and has extensive experimental facilities. Consider HAARP in Alaska. HAARP conducts experiments in Earth's ionosphere, 35 miles from the planet's surface. We already have the ability to manipulate the weather. Some theorists think our government can also create earthquakes and manipulate electromagnetic fields. Chemtrails might only be side effects of these secret weapons. The electromagnetic waves used by these weapon systems might distort and discolor clouds. When you see a chemtrail or odd clouds, you might be seeing the effects of an invisible global weapon. Could this be possible? The next time you find yourself outdoors on a sunny day, look at the clouds. Do they seem normal? Are these trails in the sky the normal streaks of jets and the normal movement of clouds and wind? Or is there something else up there? Something they don't want you to know.